My name is Mike Accursi, and you're listening to Pro Lacrosse Talk.
On Schreiber. Sidearm whip. Scores. Now in front. Fidel scores. Hands off for Rabel. Switches hands and scores.
Kylie O'Miller showing off those shifty skills.
Right off the bat, there's Lyle Thompson. Bounce pass to Accursi and on goal. Scores. No mercy from Mike Accursi.
Welcome to Pro Lacrosse Talk, the voice of Pro Lacrosse. I'm Hutton, he's Adam. Together we're bringing you interviews with your favorite players and coaches, as well as news from all 4 professional lacrosse leagues. We're here with Mike Accursi, current head coach of the Halifax Thunderbirds. Mike has won 4 NLL championships as a player with the Rochester Knighthawks and Buffalo Bandits, as well as 1 as a lacrosse operations assistant with the Knighthawks. Mike finished his playing career with 391 goals, 436 assists for 827 points. In NLL postseason history, he ranks 5th in goals with 58, tied for 8th in points with 99, and tied for 9th in games played with 26. Mike, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's kind of go back to your roots. Let's talk about growing up in Ontario a little bit. When did you first pick up a stick, and when did you think about going pro, and did you ever think you'd have this illustrious of a professional career?
Yeah, I grew up in a small town just outside of, near Niagara Falls called Pelham, Ontario. I was actually playing baseball, and my older brother, him and his buddies decided to play lacrosse. And so I wanted to be like my older brother, so I said, I want to play lacrosse too. So the Pelham Raiders, I hopped on with them, and we won a couple of provincial championships, and that's really where my love for the game kind of started from there. And growing up, pro lacrosse really wasn't even on the radar. I just loved playing it, and it kept me in good shape for hockey. Hockey again was just like every Canadian boy was, kind of your focus. And then as I got older, and I got drafted in the first round to play junior A lacrosse. And we started to see the Buffalo Bandits were in town, and we saw, I'd go to games and watch the guys, 18,000 people. And, that's really when I started thinking, well, maybe this is something that I can do. And, having a good junior career, I definitely set my sights on, having my name called and being introduced and playing professional lacrosse. So started in a small town, not really any aspirations of playing anything more with my friends. And then as it grew, I really started to put my focus into lacrosse and wanted to play at the pro level.
That's awesome. And, you ended up playing for 17 seasons, which is an amazing accomplishment in itself. You played 17 seasons in the NLL. You debuted in your hometown of Ontario with the Raiders before joining the Syracuse Smash in upstate New York for a season, and then you eventually found your way into Buffalo for your first stint with the Bandits. What was it like, though, playing your rookie season in Ontario, and then how was the transition to upstate New York?
Yeah, it was pretty cool. That team kind of came about, which is now the Toronto Rock. But it was they were allowed to protect so many players, and I was one of the players that got protected. It was myself, Paul Doyle, Bob Watson. Some pretty good names, some pretty big names that are well known in the box lacrosse community. So. Obviously I was very excited. My friends and family could come to games and, playing at a Cops Coliseum, which is a, pretty cool barn in itself. And we had a really good team, Jim Veltman. The names are endless that we had on that team. And several of those guys are, pro coaches now, Pat Coyle, Jimmy Veltman was coaching, Glenn Clark. It was a really cool experience for a young guy. And it was a great way to start my career.
That's great. And so you then moved on to Rochester to play for the Knighthawks, and while there you won your first title in 2007, and then you went back to Buffalo, won another championship in 2008. So what were those championship seasons like, and how satisfying was it to get your first one and then your second when you returned to Buffalo?
Playing that Rochester team, the 2007 team, was probably the best team I've ever played on. Again, we were a team which we were very confident in what our abilities were. We never panicked. We'd be down by 3 with 3 minutes to go, and we're like, it's okay, guys, we got this. And we started off the season really slow. I think we were 1-2 or 1-3, and then we rattled off 16 victories in a row to win the championship. So it was a team that started slow, but continued to get better as the year went on, and that was definitely one of the more memorable years, simply because it was my first NLL championship.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the off season, I was unrestricted free agent. I had a great year in Rochester, but really couldn't come to an agreement with Jody Gage, who was the GM at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I signed as an unrestricted free agent in Edmonton, and I was out in Edmonton for half a year. They had their struggles, and they kind of dumped a whole whack of us at the trade deadline. Myself, Chris Gill, Dan Stroop, we all kind of went our separate ways, and I ended up back in Bandit land. And I think then we went on a run, and having a championship, back to back was definitely pretty cool. And I had a lot of history with Buffalo, playing there for quite a while.
Yeah.
Making to the championship in 2004 against Calgary. So to win a championship in front of a sold-out house, that was really cool.
It's great. And you weren't done winning back-to-back championships, because you eventually moved back onto Rochester, played for the Knighthawks again. This time, Kurt Stiles had taken over as owner, and you helped them win back-to-back championships in 2012 and 13 before retiring, and then helping them win yet another title in 2014 as a lacrosse operations assistant. What were those 3 years like, and how was it to cap off your playing career with 2 championships and then a third as an executive?
Yeah, it was really cool. I mean, when Kurt kind of took over, they went through lots of changes, and Kurt has a way of doing things, and he's very good at building rosters and getting draft picks, and so we had some good first round draft picks, and they were a young team, but had a ton of talent, and to go back there and win those 2 in a row was definitely great. I played with one of my good friends, Matt Vince, and John Sullivan, the guys that I kind of grew up with and really enjoy hanging out with. So that was really, really special. And then in the third year when I retired, they had their struggles too with injuries. So I actually ended up coming back that year and playing in 4 games.
I didn't realize
back
that.
to my position as an assistant. So yeah, I did actually get to strap it on when we won that third one for a little bit of the season while they were coming from injuries. And it was, it has never been done before, and I don't ever know if it will. It's so difficult to win an NLL championship, but to win 3 in a row is something that very few teams even have the opportunity to do. So I think it's going to be something that's going to be a record that's going to hold true for a long time.
Absolutely. I mean, it's hard to win back to back, and you did it twice in your career, and then you followed it up with a 3 in a row. It's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, I mean, it's not too many guys can say they did that. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And then you taught for a while and coached at Holy Cross Secondary School, and eventually found your way back to the Knighthawks as an assistant for 2 years. And then we got the announcement that Kurt Stiles announced that the Knighthawks were moving to Halifax to become the Thunderbirds. What was your kind of initial reaction to the move, and what was it like being named the first coach of the program?
The move came, I think, with mixed emotions. I mean, Rochester, again, we had our roots planted in Rochester, and we were successful and kind of had a really good thing there. I understand it from a business perspective. Rochester is a community that's kind of struggled. Lots of businesses have moved out. They've struggled to kind of get, the heavy fan support that we had, earlier when I was there. So from a business standpoint, I understood it. Obviously, with heavy hearts, we all kind of knew we were leaving. And then, the opportunity presented itself. Mike Hazen stayed, with the expansion Rochester team. And, Kurt called me up and said, hey, I think it's your time. And, I jumped at that opportunity, and, I can't thank Kurt enough for the opportunity to be a part of this organization, continue in Halifax and bring it to the city of Nova Scotia to be the first head coach. It's a huge honor.
Yeah, that's great. And, it is your first stint as head coach of an NLL team. So how have you prepared for your first season as head coach, and how helpful has it been to having a team that you already knew, that are pretty much still intact following the move to Halifax with a core group of veterans, including, a former teammate and veteran now himself and Cody Jamieson. So how important was it to, have that core group of guys in your first year?
I think it's important. I mean, those guys know me. They've played with me. They've had me as their coach. So, there's definitely a comfort level having that core group come with. And I know they're supporting me and backing me up, and they're gonna help me along with the process of moving from assistant to head coach. I found out earlier on in the spring that I was going to be head coach. So I spent a great deal of time in the lacrosse arenas around Ontario and doing lots of scouting and trying to find guys that maybe people have overlooked, and having a really good intact roster coming with me, it definitely made it easier. And we knew we needed a few pieces. We think we found those pieces, and I think we've got some exciting things ahead for the Halifax Thunderbirds.
That's great. And kind of going off of that, how's training camp been going so far, and what's the vibe with the squad, and what kind of excites you the most about the season?
I'm really excited. I mean, training camp has been it's been a challenging one.
Yeah.
We've definitely made sure as a coaching staff that we're very well prepared. We are pushing the guys to their limits and beyond, and I think that's kind of how we want to play. We're a team that's going to put the hard hats on, punch the clock, and go to work. And that's our mindset going in, and the guys have really bought into it, and they've made some really difficult decisions that much harder when they're putting the time and work in that they are for this training camp. So I'm definitely not looking forward to roster day when I actually have to make all these tough decisions with my coaching staff. But it's one that I think is kind of what we want. I mean, we don't want to go into a camp where you're like, well, there's nobody really here that we are interested in. You want to go in there having those tough decisions, because if you do, you're going to have a good team. You're going to put the right guys on the floor. So it's challenging in that aspect. It's very exciting. I think Halifax has really embraced us. We've got our inner squad week. There's close to 8,000 tickets that have been picked up for that game. So
that's awesome.
Have an inner squad game where you're going to have 8,000 fans from Halifax coming out and checking you out. I don't think it's going to be much better than that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's great. You have that big of a fan base come support you guys right off the bat. But that wraps up our main questions. We're going to go take a quick break here, word from our sponsor, and then we'll dive into our 5 and 5 segment. Hey everyone, thank you for listening to another episode of the Pro Lacrosse Talk podcast. We've been using Anchor for our podcast since the very start. Anchor gives you everything you need in one place, and better yet, it's free. They allow you to easily record and edit your podcast so it sounds great, and send it out to all the major networks such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and many more. Better yet, they connect you with advertisers so you can start making money from your podcast right away. So if you're interested in starting a podcast, download the Anchor app today or go to anchor.fm to get started. Today's show is being brought to you in part by Stitcher Premium. You can use Stitcher Premium to listen to shows ad-free such as Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend, My Favorite Murder, Wolverine the Lost Trail, or our favorite, The Fantasy Footballers. For only $4.99 a month or $34.99 a year, you get access to Stitcher Originals, bonus episodes, and comedy albums. Better yet, if you go over to Stitcher.com/premium and use the promo code lacrosse today, you can get 1 month free. So head on over to Stitcher, sign up, and get your free trial today.
All right, and we're back with the 5 and 5. I'll start off with our lacrosse-related question. So, Mike, number 1, any pregame superstitions or routines you have thus far in your career?
I got a lot.
Okay.
Pretty superstitious guy.
Okay.
Playing days wise, I had a ton. I mean,
okay.
I would always travel with Matt Vince. We traveled together. His mom worked at the school that I work at, Holy Cross, so she would make me 4 cookies. She would make Matt 8 cookies. And we would drive the same route. We would stop at the same coffee shop. It was pretty bad. It got to a point where we were like, we're stopping at the same gas station because the last time we had a big win, we stopped at this gas station. So I mean, it continued to grow and grow, and finally we're looking at each other. We're like, this is a little bit ridiculous. Now not so much. I think,
Okay.
One of the biggest things that I kind of miss, I lost my grandma a while ago, and she would call me every game day, and she would tell me to kick ass. Even when I was coaching, she would still call me every day and, tell them, make sure you get those kids ready. So that was my favorite routine was her. So, I always say, a special thought to her because I know she's always looking down, taking care of me. And but other than that, no, I talk to my kids. They give me my inspiration now, and that's about it.
That's great. So kind of we talked about your time growing up in Ontario a little bit, but who was your favorite lacrosse player while you were growing up?
My favorite lacrosse player was John Tavares. I mean, when I was younger and I would go to watch Buffalo, he was always one of the better players. Him and Darius Kilgore. I was fortunate enough to play with Darius my first year of senior lacrosse in Niagara Falls. I was coached by Darius. I have a ton of respect for Darius and what he's done in the sport. And then I spent a lot of time playing with JT, and we had some great chemistry, some great years together. I consider both of those guys friends. So those were two guys I think that definitely, from a player perspective, helped shape my career. And I can't thank them enough for all of that they've taught me and showed me and mentored me, especially when I was younger. Those two guys are legends.
That's awesome. That'll be a fun one once you go to Buffalo and play him in February. I'm sure that'll be a fun one for you.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll probably chirp each other over text,
Yep.
The week of. But yeah, it'll be a good one.
Awesome. So kind of going off of that, but whether it's your coaching career or your playing career, what's been your favorite venue to play or coach in thus far?
Favorite venue? That's a tough one. There's been so many cool rinks that I've played in, and I think playing in Maple Leaf Gardens is really cool just from the historic, fan point. The locker rooms were terrible, but it was, such a cool arena with so much history. It was definitely, very cool. Colorado's another one, which is, an unreal arena. It's got a jumbotron that I think is the whole length of the floor. That one's really cool. Calgary's awesome too. I mean, it's a great arena. Again, so much history in that barn. I don't know if I could pick one, to be honest with you. I think they all have unique qualities. They're all pretty cool. I'm hoping Halifax becomes my new favorite, so I'm excited about that.
That's awesome. So kind of going off of that, we talked about who you looked up to as a player. How about kind of during your coaching career? Who's been a coach thus far that you've leaned on as a mentor so far?
To be honest, I think Mike Hazen.
Sure.
Mike really, he kind of, I played with Mike and we knew each other for a long time. He brought me to Peterborough coaching in the summer, senior with him. That was before I, got hired on in Rochester. So,
okay.
He puts a lot of time and effort into it. He's very passionate about the game, very, very smart guy and, always prepared. So I think he was definitely, probably, one of the guys that I really looked up to and respected as a coach, playing for. And then, on the other side, having seen all the time and effort that he put into it, was definitely something that shaped me and, how I prepare and how I feel like I'm going to prepare for games.
Awesome. And this last lacrosse-related question is a loaded one, so I'm sure it'll be a little tough. But which of your championships was the most satisfying for you, or what was your favorite of the championship?
Favorite one? I don't know. They're tough. That's tough.
Yeah.
I think the first one was amazing because for all of us, it was all of our first championships. I don't think we had any guy on that team that won. That one was awesome, simply because we were a dominant team. We all hung out together on the floor, off the floor. Like, we were a really, really tight group. I'm probably one of the tightest groups that I've ever played with. Okay. 2008 was cool too because I had so much history in Buffalo and I had such a huge part of my career played in Buffalo. And I was out in Edmonton. We were in last place. I'm like, okay, I'm not playing in playoffs for the first time in a long time. And then trade deadline comes. Darius Kilgore calls me, hey buddy, we brought you back. And I was like, all right, here we go. And winning that one, you know, was something special because it was, you know, back to my roots, back to where my career really kind of took off, was in Buffalo. And I really kind of made a name for myself. And so I would say those two were probably the most special, simply because they were first. Not discounting the fact that, you know, going back to Roch and, you know, winning a few more there didn't hurt either. But I'd say the first two. I'd definitely say the first one was the best. Second one obviously was in Buffalo. But anytime you win a championship, they're special in their own right for different reasons.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. But, you know, moving away from the lacrosse side of things, you kind of talked about how you had a close-knit group of, you know, teammates, both on the field and off the field. So going on to some off-the-field questions, what are some hobbies or activities you enjoy doing when you're not coaching?
I grew up, you know, in a small town. We grew up in the country. I love fishing. I love hunting. I love being outdoors. You know, fishing and hunting are probably my two biggest pastimes outside of lacrosse. Those are two things that I love being in the woods. I love being on the water. Hunting and fishing, you know, is my thing.
So my next question is, who is your favorite non-lacrosse athlete to watch?
Wayne Gretzky. I mean, I think, you know, growing up, you watch Hockey Night in Canada. It was always something you did with your family and, you know, your buddies. And, you know, Wayne was, you know, he was a different level player, right? He was a guy that was top of his game for so long. You know, you knew every time he touched the ice, something good was going to happen. So he was definitely one that I was always excited to watch. You know, I have a real love for the Montreal Canadiens as a kid. So I really enjoyed watching, you know, Patrick Roy, and any of the Montreal Canadiens guys. Those were always my favorite. I actually sat next to a plane that sat next to Guy Lafleur when I was going down to Florida one year. We were in the smoking section of a plane, because a lot of kids don't know it was a smoking section in a plane with a small curtain, you know, aside to kind of separate everybody. But, you know, we ended up getting bumped up to the smoking section and ended up sitting next to Guy Lafleur. So, you know, that was an unreal experience being a Habs fan, you know, to sit next to the Flower. It was awesome.
Awesome. And what is your favorite spot in Halifax currently, since you've been there? You know, is it a restaurant, museum, etc.?
Favorite spot is probably Pizza Corner. You know, go and get a good slice of za. You know, get a shawarma. The shawarmas there are unbelievable. That's definitely a hot spot for me. I enjoy seafood, and the oysters there are unreal. Bicycle Thief is, you know, one of the top restaurants in Halifax. It's a fantastic restaurant. If you're ever in town, definitely a place you want to check out. It's unreal.
Good to know. That kind of leads into my next question. What is your favorite meal, and do you prefer to dine out, take out, or cook at home?
I like cooking at home. I mean, I like barbecuing things. I like smoked ribs. I like using my smoker. Ribs are delicious. I make a real mean venison jalapeno cheddar burger.
There we go.
If you're ever in town, I'll hook you guys up.
That sounds awesome.
Really delicious. Yeah, I love food. I mean, that's I got to continue to work out. Otherwise, I'm gonna pack on the lbs pretty quick. So, yeah, seafood I love. You know, game meats and, you know, venison is fantastic. I love smoking things. So anything where it's meat and fire related is probably something I'm going to enjoy eating.
There we go.
Awesome. Okay, my final question is, what is a book on your bookshelf that you've read or are reading right now that you'd recommend to either one of your players or a friend or a colleague?
The Mind Gym. Mind Gym's a book about athletes and preparation for sport and high-level sport. It's like a series of stories and, you know, recommendations and tips and, you know, something that actually Matt Vince got me on. He used to read a little bit here and there, you know, before games, night before game. He would read it, you know, a little bit and read it over. And I think it's just to help mentally prepare you. I think when you get to this level, you know, physically you have to be fit. You have to be, you know, physically prepared to play, but I think the mental side of sports is something that, you know, people are continuing to improve. and sports psychology. So that mental preparation, I think, is really important as well. So it'd be definitely something that's on my shelf. If it's non-sport related, it would probably be a book about the Navy SEALs. I don't know, I got like a slight obsession with learning about their training and what they do and how they prepare to go into battle. And I think it's always a good read whenever you read those stories.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Yeah, we appreciate the recommendations. We always get a lot of good answers. I'll have to check out mine, Jim. That sounds really interesting.
Great book.
Yeah. But we usually like to end, Mike, with one final question, and that is, what is some advice that you have for a young player looking to one day play lacrosse professionally?
You know, when you have to dedicate yourself, and I mean, part of being dedicated to something is there has to be sacrifices that are made along the way. I mean, if you really want to take your game to the next level, you know, you got to practice. You got to have to sacrifice time hanging out with your buddies, and instead you got to be in the gym. You got to be practicing. You got to be shooting. And I think, you know, when you're dedicated to something, you enjoy it. It's not work. It should be something that you continue to enjoy. You continue to push yourself. You know, and like I said to my players, you know, this week after practice, I think everybody has to find their limit, and then you have to go beyond that limit and find a new limit. So, you know, find your limit and then push yourself past that limit, push yourself to the limits of, you know, where can I go from here? So if you continue to push what your ceiling is and where your limit is, there's no telling where you can go.
That's awesome. That's some great advice, Mike. We really appreciate you coming on our show with us. Where can people find you on social media?
I'm at Mike Accursi on Twitter, and my Instagram handle is @Accursi44. So you can come check me out. I'm not a huge tweeter, but every once in a while I get inspired and throw something up there. But I would say if you want to check me out, you know, hook me up.
Sounds great. No, we really appreciate it, Mike. Thanks for joining us, and you know, best of luck with the Thunderbirds. We'll be watching them closely and looking forward to the season.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me on.
All right, you just heard our interview with Mike Accursi, the head coach of the Halifax Thunderbirds. If you enjoyed this interview with him, please leave us a review on Apple, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to your podcast. Let us know on social media. We're at Pro Lacrosse Talk on Instagram and Twitter. We love hearing your feedback. And we hope you guys listen to our future interviews with coaches and players. And tune in next time to Pro Lacrosse Talk. Today's show is being brought to you in part by Stitcher Premium. You can use Stitcher Premium to listen to shows ad-free such as Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend, My Favorite Murder, Wolverine the Lost Trail, or our favorite, The Fantasy Footballers. For only $4.99 a month or $34.99 a year, you get access to Stitcher Originals, bonus episodes, and comedy albums. Better yet, if you go over to Stitcher.com/premium and use the promo code LACROSSE today, you can get 1 month free. So head on over to Stitcher, sign up, and get your free trial today.